and welcome everybody to our second meeting about the 4 stages of the creative process. I'm Joerg Andres here in Germany from the Michael Chekhov International Academy, and we have...
I'm Lisa Dalton with the National Michael Chekhov Association, and I'm in the United States. And we also have a special guest with us from Israel, and that is...
Hello everyone, I'm Ophir and I'm from Israel, and I studied both with Joerg and Lisa.
This is 4 stages of the creative process. It is such a thing. Sometimes we would like to have as actors, directors, please do this and do this and do this and do this, and then you will make the right thing. And then it will be great. So this is one tendency. The other tendency is that one says, oh, I have only to trust my inspiration. I only follow, and I don't care about any structures in this way. Even when I read something, a scene also, I immediately want to act it. And the point for that is sometimes that we have in the first readings a play, and the group is together and there's a first group reading of a play, then sometimes it gets very emotional, very nicely emotional. So they bring all power into that, what they get from that first touching the words, and express it very, in a way, very, forgive me, superficial, deeply. So it's just as it comes in connection with their own personal sensation, what the words are meaning, and one fills this reading with that. So no structure. Yeah, of course, the first reading is a bit of a structure. So there are 2 tendencies. One is to want to have really, I do that, do that, do that, and the other tendency is I only trust myself. In another lecture about to his students in Dalton, Chekhov speaks also about this problem or this question already, that he says in his time, it was 1936, that the actors and directors, they are on the way, just everybody find its own method, his own technique. So everybody creates a kind of a, let's say, a personal technique for that, what they want to create, how they can become creative. So for some reasons, I had to make research, and I came to this nice Russian book. Don't think that I'm very good in Russian, I'm very bad, but I can read the letters and I can understand some words. And so I were asking one of my friends, please to translate me into German, one chapter, what I found there about the theater of future. And in this chapter about the theater of future, Chekhov speaks, it's written, but he speaks to someone. You can feel that very nicely. I can imagine to an imaginary group of actors surrounding him or one prepared play. And he speaks to them very nicely. And I think this, what there is written, it is a kind of a pre-version of that 4 stages, what we find here in this book. He speaks there about the theater of future and says that there are many differences from the theater in his time. And one most important point is that the actors and directors will know that they have to work with a creative process absolutely consciously. They will know how the creative process is working. They will have a knowledge about it, and they can use these different, let's say, phases, yeah? Phases, the different phases very consciously. And they will know that there are 4 stages. So, and then he speaks in this chapter about the theater of future only about these 4 phases or 4 stages of the creative process. And as we have maybe already found also in the looking in general last time of the 4 stages here in this book, we can see there are at least 2 general groups. And the first one is a more, on one hand, more individual and more imaginative. And then the other is a kind of a more real working in the rehearsal space and just going to the physicalization of these phases. And here in the first, he speaks for the first phase, he speaks about that this is a phase of love. In this book, with the 4 stages, it sounds more, it's a phase of atmosphere. Yeah, atmosphere and love, how far is it away? Atmosphere, the phase of love, the phase of atmosphere. And he says, this first step is very much related in such a mood as the soul of the child is exploring the world and gets astonished about what happens there and why does it move in this way? How is it there? What is the world around me? Just as a kind of exploring, trying out, touching the things and go with them in a very, very inside way to fall in love with that what is there. This is the first step. And out of that, then comes a second phase, this love, this out of the reading, out of the imagining, out of letting, being impressed by everything, what you get. Let's say we have a script. Through the script to the soul, just breathe it in, live with it, and enjoy it, fall in love with it, and test the atmospheres, and try to, oh, wow, become astonished about that, what there is happening. In the second phase, there comes a bit of more consciousness to it. Then it will start to work with these things, going with some, asking with some, trying out more consciousness, going into deeper in this, what you have explored as the field of this, what you met by falling in love with that what is there. So that's, in general, I found that very nicely to see also a little bit different version about his description, what has more to do with trusting, believing, let you influence by that what is there, don't judging, and try to breathe in the imaginations, what comes to you. To learn that in the first phase, everything is a gift. Everything is a gift. Oh, wow. This and this, how does it feel like? Yeah, that's maybe first intro for our talk today, Lisa, or to Ophir, when we can go deeper into it. And he comes then to the second phase, that one is going more consciously through that what is given in the text. Okay, act one, and reading maybe again and sense it in a different, now finding out more about what are the relationships, how may it looks like, and can I imagine a little bit more the characters. And so going through the play and find the steps more consciously. What you got as an impression, now look at it. In the first phase, it's more taking in. In the second, okay, now I try to reconnect with that, and I try to look at that and try with my imagination go a little bit deeper into it. So Lisa, you are on your wonderful whiteboard
Yes.
drawing something.
Yes. So as I begin, and this might be a little awkward, but I'll just pick this up, I think, to help you guys see this. So one of the first phases that I love to engage in is the images, allowing the images. So as Joerg was speaking, I just started responding and drawing and creating images from what he was saying. What was coming to me, just what were my first impressions of how, as if I were hearing this play for the first time, this play that's called How to Create in the world of Michael Chekhov's inspirations. And you can see I just started jotting words, images, using different colors, using different aspects. And I am overcoming my own apprehensions, if you will, my own concerns that I might not be a great artist and things like that. And I'm allowing my higher self to just start flowing with these images. So today we're doing a series on the creative process, and we began it with an overall introduction to these 4 stages which Joerg has referenced. And today we're focusing on really that first stage and how it starts to weave into that second stage. We're looking at the pre-rehearsal phase. And I love how Joerg has outlined several different general pathways. You might have seen a staircase on my images there, and that's sort of that came out as a hard sort of black staircase. That's like this, these are the steps, take these steps, do this, do this, do this, do this, every single time. It will lead you exactly to where you have to go. And then these random processes where we just trust ourselves and we use no technique whatsoever. And so I am a person who likes procedures. I like staircases, and yet I don't want any rails on them. I want to be able to fall off of them or spring off of them into different directions, and to weave what I consider the most fundamental structural staircase that we have, which is the Stanislavski system of analysis. And so my creative process is really a weaving of what I understand the Stanislavski system is, as was handed down in the Bakhtangov and the Shukin school, as my observations at the time when I really started deeply focusing on these different structures of how to structurize things. I felt that the work that I saw coming out of there was the most solid actor training. And so this is in the early 1990s. And as I worked with actors across the globe, I felt that their training was the best, And I had Andrea Malai of Babel, who was a graduate of there, and also Dimitri Boudrin, also graduate there. Dimitri and I taught together in Los Angeles. So I resourced both of them to get further confirmation, and then began developing how to weave this analysis with Michael Chekhov's work, what I call synth analysis, synthesizing the analysis, moving the analysis into a more practical, synthesized way. So for me, that's finding a staircase with no railings, nothing to keep you on it necessarily. So the first step in this creative process is this falling in love process with the material. And for me, in the Stanislavski structure, it was making a list of first impressions. And that list was too narrow for my freedom. And so it evolved into a collage of first impressions. And in that collage, I create this for myself, and then once again for my my cast as a director, and or for myself as the actor, beginning with the first read-throughs. And there and now I'm going to share my screen and switch to an example of a cast, a collage of images that is from a Oscar Wilde play, and on my screen to the left are the images, and then on the second page on the right are studying the images and observing what kind of themes are coming out of it, what kind of atmospheres, what kind of topics or subject matter is being discussed there. So as we again see that everyone has collaborated on this series of images, and when we look at the images, our aim, our super goal here is to be able to fall in love with this play. When I look at this portrait of images, this beautiful picture of images, does it make me want to play that play? I look at it and go, wow, look at all these different things, different colors and powerful images and social commentary, and do I want to play with that? And that is the central purpose, how to fall in love. The idea is that every time we read this play, we add more to our field of images. Did that image come up for everyone? Yeah. So that's my step number one, is upon reading the play, creating that collage of images. And this collage stays with us throughout the entire production. So I would keep this collage visible, and it would be with me in rehearsals, or I might do it just in a small piece of paper, and it might be on the inside of my script. And anytime during the process when more images arise, I start adding them to this paper. And I also am going to check back on this field of images here. I'm going to look at it once again. Well, I'm going to look at it about once a week so that I can keep seeing something that maybe I forgot. And especially the week before I open, I'm going to look back at my images and see, is there something that had to wait because I couldn't bring it into the early phases? From can I bring it in now? What little jewels and sparkles can happen? And I love that Joerg was speaking of the distinction Michael Chekhov made in this Russian version, where he perhaps speaks at a certain point about the subconscious, and then he shifts to talking about what I call the super conscious. And this super consciousness is, I believe, what ultimately he began to call the higher ego, which we have spoken of at length. And it is that it contains that field, that sphere of your creative imagination that is filled with an unlimited amount of images. And when we create an image board, we are simply sort of downloading or collecting and gathering as many images as we can to help activate us, help us fall in love, help us discover, like that little baby, what this world might be. And I would do this also with my designers, ask them perhaps to do it individually when they first read the play, and then again as an ensemble team, and even a third time with the actors. And when all of your designers and your cast and your director have gone through an image boarding process, it unites the ensemble's creative process, and the atmospheres really begin to pop. So that's the very first step on my creative process. Joerg, how about you? What's your very first step after you answer your phone?
Yeah. Oh no, I have to go to phone. Sorry, please.
Okay, I'll keep talking and I'll mute you for the moment. All right, so I'll share my second step. And of course, this is not specifically the second step, because literally I would then have to make sure I have a place to do my play, of course, and or my project. And if I were directing it, if I were first reading and didn't have a place to do it, then I would have to find a place, find a producer, and go through all those steps. But let's say we've gone from here, we've completed our casting, and we're entering the rehearsal. Before the rehearsal process, I'm going to step through an entire sequence so that as the director, I am ready to take my team along with me on this journey. So having created my image board, I am very powerfully looking in and asking. And it's important when we do this image board that we step through a 3-phase process, that using our rhythm of 3s, that we begin by allowing our very first impressions to be placed on the board. And when we run out of those, then we step away and we concentrate on our ideal artistic center and imagine from there asking the play to reveal more of itself. So we go into a little meditative state, anchoring ourselves into grounding ourselves, and then allowing ourselves to open up to our superconscious levels and inviting the further images to arise within us. And we wait actively, that active gaze into our creative space, and then allow ourselves to add to this. When we run out again, we then turn to the third repetition of this process from our first expression, second one going deeper, and once again going deeper, asking our ideal artistic center, our super consciousness, what else? What else is there? Share with me. And inviting the images. Mr. Chekhov speaks of these images as independently existing. So they're up there. And if we pretend that they really are there, then we know that it is probably their goal to get some attention. Like that little infant, they are up there, they're wanting to be birthed. And so they want to get your attention. And those first couple of layers clear out your everyday thought levels, your lower consciousness, and now a deeper awareness may arise. And so for that third time, we again place them, add the images here. If you like, it's possible that maybe for your first round, you take 3 colors. And then for your second round, you take different colors. And for your third round, you take another set of colors. And if you do that, then you'll be able to go back and look at your images and see which layer of creativity they emerged from. I've heard that Anthony Hopkins reads his script 500 times. And that process of reading again really stimulates your creativity. And in between each read, your subconscious and superconscious laboratories are working together to help begin to formulate. Eventually, we want to know exactly what this play is about. And that's when we start by gazing into our creative images and once again going through the rhythm of 3 times, asking ourselves, what is this play about? That's when you start writing words. And like that second piece of paper that was on the right side of the screen, and you can see on that, I'll switch back to it, that after we wrote on the words, we then took certain colored markers and circled them according to their overall theme. So there are ones that are circled in blue, some that are circled in black, some that are circled in red. And you also see we have different colors. So those different colors of ink of the words themselves represent the different 3 layers of repeating the meditation through the Ideal Artistic Center. And then we were able to see that basically there were about 3 or 4 major topics that were being discussed as the theme. The theme is, what is it about? And from there, we ask ourselves, what do we want to say about these themes? So I see loyalty on the screen, and what do I want to say about loyalty? I see class. I see things circled in red: class and power and perfection. And so what are we saying about class structures in this play? And from there, we develop the ideas. Now, at each step of this process, going all the way back to our first set of images, is the process of getting up on our feet and actually, while we're drawing some images and getting up on our feet and actually physicalizing, embodying, incorporating the images. So I've got my baby here. So I'm going to look at that, and I put up my baby, and I got a present there. I'm going to open my present, and I've got a script I'm falling in love with, and wow, wow, and I got a staircase I'm going to step on. And so I'm actually multi-dimensionalizing this process and getting it from the page onto my body, into my physiology, into my psychophysical world. And I'm doing that every time I add to it. And if I'm working with a group, then when I bring this to the cast, then while people are taking turns there, we are creating, someone else is drawing something and I'm gesturizing their expression. And when it goes to the themes, we start creating psychological gestures or harmonious groupings that express the theme, a class structure. And we start going right from this drawing and creative process into physicalizing the processes to awaken the body and start getting, that little infant wants to reach for that rattle and, or wants to taste it, wants to try it, and it wants to touch it and hear it and see it and feel it. So we move as quickly as possible into the psychophysical creative process. So, Joerg, are you ready?
Lisa, that is a very complex beginning, what you have described. Yeah, it is just, it's not possible in 1 hour, even not for a little scene. That's very nice. Thank you very much for that description of the process, what is developed through your research and through your practice. That's very nice. It when I think back to that first step and what you said, it is always with a read it again, read a play again, or read a scene again. I don't know how anybody feels, but I think sometimes in our time, that people don't find it so important. So one is more, yeah, I have read it, I know already, and then I make my analysis and my thinking. But at least when we go to the term of love, so when I fall in love with something, then I want to see again and again and again and meet again and again. So there's what Chekhov writes and read a play several times. So that's always a question, what does it mean? How much is it? 2 times? Is it several? Maybe we don't need to do it 80 times or whatever. But several times, that means under a different perspective. Because after one reading and this opening to that field of imagination and inspiration, and when I let that sink a little bit deep in me, that means after any reading, have a kind of a flying back, go back through the imaginations, and also develop the sense, what was it, what was touching me? Out of that, the second reading, what doesn't mean that it is just after the first one, the second reading has absolute different preconditions, even in the soul. And then the soul can relate to that, what on one hand, the soul knows, and basically the general structure may be, then it can go deeper into it. Then there is one process, it's an individual process for each director, actor, to read that again and again. And then there is a group process, even with reading a play, and what you described sometimes there also with a group, and then out of the reading collecting the ideas. This is the same what I'm doing. I like very much to give the input after a reading, even in the group or also for myself in the alone reading, to make a kind of an atmosphere drawing. With different colors, make atmosphere drawings about what is it like. I don't have an example here now, sorry for that. And also then character atmospheres drawings. What do I see, the forms and colors, what comes through me about this character, just make a little drawing, a sketch. This is not that I then go ever directly to it, back to it, and say, this I have now to bring on stage. This is not the meaning. The meaning is just to even free the inspiration through doing something with my hands. So that this connection through the center and the chest, my openness to this text, to the world, to the imaginary world of a play, of a scene, of a character, that this opening can have a first touching, first something what goes with the will and with the soul out, so that is in front of me a little bit more. I think for the first step, very much important is to create the atmosphere for that reading. That I take really the time. I have seen actors reading the play in the tram or in the underground, so when studying the monologue just in this situation. I think this is a little bit counterproductive, because that leads only to the head. And when I want to open up my soul, I need to have an atmosphere that I can read and pause and get the impression, the imagination, that I maybe have a little bit thinking about it. And then I step in again and continue the reading, so that it is a very nicely open breathing process. And through that process, I think I give also respect to these imaginary characters. When they are real artistic beings, then I have to bring also respect to them. And with that, it starts a nice breathing process. Crossing the threshold, being my center, create the atmosphere for that play, for this scene, and then go and take all the time I need to go step by step through the play, let the images come to me, and even try sometimes to memorize them. Have a pause. That was a strong moment. So this gives me also then for the later, what I call the composition analysis. You call it synthesizes, synthanalysis. Even the composition analysis has the only aim later on to create one thing, the overview, to have all in one. Have all in one deeper impression of the soul. I'm not sure, should I put the composition analysis in the first step or in the second? I would like to say that is just something what leads to the second step, because now I go consciously to my impressions. I'm looking for, in this composition analysis, looking for the scenes, but what is the theme of the scene? What are they discussing there? What is it about? But not only from the words, but also from the meaning of the play. And I go also to specific words. How is in the play, which words are used in which meaning from these or these characters? And so I open up that this, for instance, behind the words, this character has a different meaning about it as the other character. So the word is not the meaning in general. And this leads me then to the conscious process of creating the images for the text. What has to be a conscious process. And when I want to go, and this I think is a step second and relates to the step second, that I create the images for the text from the character's point of view. And not from my actor's point of view. And even all that work with the imagination has a certain characteristic. I have to set something, yeah, as you did with the drawings, you draw something and it may look this way or this way, don't care. With the imagination, I have to set something, and because I was setting it, I can easily change it. I can easily change it for the needs of the creative development. So, of course, I use also some structural steps, and they are overlapping, but they have always to do with this open up and in this way have the inner question and the inner gesture to open up to receive, open up to this world of inspiration, the world of imagination, consciously opening up to receive consciously, and then work with that material. And what I also like then when we have, it's a kind of closing up the second step for me on one side. There's another bit, but one thing is that I ask my actors and ask myself to write in, that's a little bit funny, to write in 5 sentences what is a general plot of that play or of a scene. What is the general meaning? What happens there? What is there in this way? What is a social relevance? That it has to do with the Chekhov's question in the creative ego. He speaks there about the audience and that. What is it? So I call it social relevance. What is a social relevance? Try to write it down in 5 sentences. It is a hard process. Now you bring all your inspirations, all your ideas you had, you have to bring it into a first little thoughtful form. And a second writing, to write in 3 sentences. It's a little bit funny, I know. What is that from your point of view as director actor, even for each actor's point of view. It's not so easy to formulate. This has to do also with a social meaning, but from another perspective. It has to do with this point of view, what Chekhov is asking also about the good and evil perception. I can formulate it in this way. Please try to write down. I call that the moral fable. The other is a social fable, moral fable. So the deeper, what is a message? Why? What you would like to bring to the audience? With other words, why you as actor would like to spend, let's say, 4 weeks of your life with that play. What is firing you? What is a higher idea, the higher inspiration? What is it what you think it is worth for you to work 4 weeks on this play and these characters because you would like to deliver to the audience what understanding of the human being world, what means the world of morality, about good and evil, at least. So that's maybe now enough. There are, of course, as you also have some other points more in the detail, but this maybe is, from my perspective, I think the same. On one hand, we use a little bit different methodical things or different technical things for it. Yeah.
Yes, it's we're coming to the same point from different directions, and for me, after that experiencing reading, and of course for both of us, one thing I want to make very clear is the initial process. Mr. Chekhov invites us to really focus on the feeling of the whole, to fall in love with the whole play, so that when those first few readings, when we, treat that reading process as a sacred process, and we are inviting our imagination to taste it, to chew it, to discover it, that we're looking at the whole, at the feeling of the whole play itself. And then as the later repetitions, then we start to shift to our own particular character, or the director starts to shift to looking for information regarding specific characters and their relationships.
Yeah,
So
that's, may I can go into it. For me, it's that I'm in this ensemble readings, I mix up the roles always. Reading one time, you read that, you read that, you read that. Another time, you read that, you read that, you read that, you read that, and not in character. The people may know which parts they will get, but not reading it in character, because I won't go to that imaginations, to the other layer behind that words.
I love that. That's great. Thank you, Joerg. So once we move to those themes, and we start this where you are with your 5 and 4 and 3 sentences, we're looking at the themes. What is this about? And then we're asking, what was the writer saying about this? What was the what do I want to say as a director about this? What does society, what is the vision for society? And we create harmonious groupings which capture, for example, the themes, the individual themes, which are like atmospheres. And then when we arrive at an idea of what it is that we are saying about these things, then it actually moves into a moving ensemble psychological gesture that expresses that force of good and evil. We're asking about the forces of good and evil, and when we understand what the forces of good and evil are, we arrive at a wish, a psychological gesture for the audience, which is the way I phrase it is, what would you like your audience to do tomorrow because they saw your show today? So it's a call to action, having the artist actively want to inspire an action, a change, a transformation in the spectator, and creating the psychological gesture to express that. And that psychological gesture then can be done repeatedly, and it can evolve and transform over the process.
That's going very far. Yeah. So this is it comes to the borderline. What is yeah, that's interesting point. I like in this direction just what is it what I deliver and open what they can take, and I would like to leave it even from my imagination. I would like to leave it free what they take. Yeah. So, but I have to be very clear what it is, what I want deliver, what I would like to show in the world, where I point to. And if they see it, if they take it, this depends to the eyes and the soul of the audience on one hand. And this is quite clear, this composition analysis in the way as I have to say we have developed here in Berlin, in the Michael Chekhov Studio Berlin, with Jobst Langhans and me, and what I developed then further in my way, the composition analysis. This is just this way to bring the absolutely full play in one inner picture of yourself as a real imagination, so that hopefully everybody is overviewing in the field of imagination the full play, because that's for the next rehearsal steps, very important, because the next rehearsal steps are not logically. We don't work from the first word until the last word, just the opposite. It's another point we will discuss in the next meeting, I believe. So this is a composition analysis, and your synthesis process, I have seen that and I could perceive it, and I like that also very much. It's very interesting how you do it from another side and I do it from this side, and maybe once these things will also meet and create a third version of something like that.
Yes, Ophir.
Yes, I wanted to say it's very interesting, first of all, and wanted to ask about if we're talking about the two first steps of the creative process, what are you doing if you're directing? Because the whole theme here is in the eyes of the director. Um, what are you doing when you have an actor who doesn't fall in love with this, with his part or with the play, or what are you doing if you don't fall in love? It can happen. So what are you doing?
If I'm truthfully, then I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't direct the play. Then I shouldn't act it. Otherwise,
And
I'm not artistically truthful. But when is a moment to decide that? So, and knowing that even to fall in love is in our time a process of consciousness and not anymore a process of instincts. This is very mixed up in our culture. And I can do something to fall in love with something what I meet, and it's not from my instinct the first what I would think I fall in love with it. So this is a active process, and when I have an actor, then we have to work together. We speak, we do something, we do other creative things, and we try to clarify it. Otherwise, in the end, if there is not the fire of love in the actor, why should she do it? It's no, it's no joy, it's no fun, it's no power. Yeah. But we have to take some time to develop it. And of course, you ask, what are you doing? It has to do very much with a kind of speaking with each other, reading again, looking to some points from my perspective, what I see in it. Maybe this can open up another understanding for this actor. And we can also just jump to other steps of the creative process and just try out something. Just act something, even in a spontaneous way, not believing that this is a acting for on the stage for the next time, but just to see, to understand what is a real question behind that expression. I can't fall in love with that. Very often, or sometimes one has it when one get a part and one don't like this character because of it's a too nice character. He seems superficial, and I don't want to give such a superficial dandy boy. Or there is this character is too dark, too awful, and this is, I don't want relate with such powers and so on. Of course, then we have to work on it, because you have to find the love for both. And when you would like to act them, it's a process.
I would support that completely. There's part of me that says, you know, don't take the job. And another part that says, fire that actor, find a new actor. And yet there are times when that actor would be me. For example, I get an audition and it's a character like Joerg was saying that is uninteresting to me. And or I am hired, part of my job is to create a piece out of a script that I think is quite boring. And I have found this synth analysis process to be very, very enriching by sort of forcing this step-step structure, especially the 9 event structure that Michael Chekhov lays out in chapter 8 of To the Actor, on a flat and boring script can help me fall in love. So all the steps of the creative process are designed to awaken that love, affection, and excitement. That love activates courage and it activates enthusiasm. And so we can also apply to this situation exactly what Joerg was saying, where Mr. Chekhov speaks about how to find yourself in relationship with another actor that you don't like. He talks about looking to one small part, perhaps that person's eyebrow, and saying, wow, I love the shape of their eyebrow. But finding one small element that you do like. And when you enter the world of creativity through that, you are already opening your heart to an aspect. And the more you do that, of course, the more that will blossom and foster this sense of love, this sense of creativity around the work. And I think Joerg was touching upon, sometimes there is a deeper need in the artist and or in yourself. Mr. Chekhov says that every character that we play carries a gift for us. And that gift, you know, that popped up in the beginning of our talk, what is the gift? So even in a play, or especially in a play or part that you don't seem to fall in love with instantly, now is the time to invite your higher self to reveal the possibility of the gift. Maybe you don't know yet what it will be. However, if you open your heart to knowing that there is a gift, then you lead your creative self with that question. In what way is working on this, playing with this, experiencing and expressing this a gift for me? If we can engage that open-heartedness approach to that part or to that actor, the potential for having a stronger creative process will exist.
Yeah. Did you say what the social vision of the piece was in terms of expressing that in 5 sentences?
Yeah.
And what did you mean by social vision?
What do I see as a social in that play? Social important, that means for the society. What is a play speaking about? What is in our world on? What is in the life in general on? And this is what I call that then the social fable. I forgot to say that in the chat. Maybe I have to add it the next time. Then this is a little bit. There's an idea from Bertolt Brecht. He is asking his actors to write in 5 sentences a plot of a play. What is a play about? Very shortly. What is it about? And I extended it a little bit, not only from the point of view of the plot itself, just also to say, okay, what is a plot? But what is this plot in this, how it is structured? What is it breaking, opening in the breaking in the society? To which point in the social life it is pointing? Yeah, so that's in the society. That's what I call the social fable. And then the moral fable. It's also a funny term. I don't have. Okay, and this is really from the point of view of the people who create that. The actors, directors. What is it? I like for myself this question, what is it? What makes me that I spend 4 or 6 weeks and also spend some money to give that out Why? What is my deeper inner impulse in the meaning of I'm a creative artist and I have to say something. And what is it? Can I bring it into 3 sentences? And the process, it takes sometimes 1 hour to find the 3 sentences or more. But it is a very interesting process. The same with the 5 sentences. There was something I received, and then now I bring it, and now I want to express it even in words, but it's very hard. It's not only a imagination.
Yeah, I'll just add that when one has that level of clarity, the distinction between the question of the social relevance and then the moral interweaves between the reason that the author wrote it in the time that the author wrote it and why now, why do it today. And if we don't anchor ourselves into the distinction between what the author was offering us in its context and why we want to do this today, then if we don't have a why today, we lose our ability to take a classic, for example, and allow our creative individuality to express itself in what is the need for doing this today. So these questions that are being asked and whether they're coming, which direction they're coming in from, as long as the questions are asked, it stimulates our creativity and begins to focus it to why now, and that will allow this particular production to bear your creative individuality on it. And each artist's creative individuality will be able to join in that unified focus.
Thank you.
It's a great question. All right, we will continue the creative process, and you see that these stages overlap. So we've pushed into a little bit of some possible rehearsal process, and we may have to touch back to pre-rehearsal work and what is rehearsal, and we'll go with that same time next week.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining.
Bye.